Hello everyone, this is Mrs. Gill. Today we are going to be doing some grade 7 and 8 review. We're going to be talking about decimals and square roots. Without a calculator, we want to estimate what the square root of 46 is. So how do we do that? Well, there are a bunch of perfect square numbers listed here on the side, and you know all of these. That tells you here what the square root of each of these numbers are and why it is. For example, square root of 16 is equal to 4. Since 4 squared is 16, so that's why the square root is equal to 4. We're trying to estimate the square root of 46. So when I look over at the chart on the side, I see that the square root of 46 is going to be somewhere in between these two right here. 46 is in between 36 and 49. So that means my answer is going to be somewhere between 6 and 7. So let me write that down there. My answer is going to be between 6 and 7. That's what my answer will be. So I'm just going to estimate. Now, do I think, looking over again at the chart, does it look like it's closer to 6 or closer to 7? So the square root of 46. 46 is closer to 49 than it is to 36. So I'm going to take 6 point something, but I'm going to make it a little bit closer to 7. So maybe 6.7, 6.8 would be a good guess. If you had a question like this on a test, I would take anything probably really from 6.5 up to 6.9 I would accept for an answer here. So this is about 6.7. And to show estimating in math, we can put a dot over the equal sign. We can also draw an equal sign with a kind of a wavy curl thing on top of it there. That's another way of saying approximately equal to. Second one is the square root of 72. So let me erase what I have on my chart here. Square root of 72. Square root of 72, so that's between, so you won't be given this chart here on the right. You need to know these numbers. The square root of 72 is somewhere in between the square root of 64 and the square root of 81, which means my answer is going to be 8 point something. So how close am I going to go? It's almost right in halfway, right? 72 is almost halfway between a 64 and an 81. So for my estimate here, I know it's between 8 and 9. I'm going to say it's approximately 8.5. It's about halfway between those two. That's all you need to do for this question, is just doing an approximation. What about 0.36? I don't have any decimals on my chart here at all. The lowest number I've got is a 1. I haven't got anything less than that. So 0.36. For that one, I'm going to ignore, let me just kind of cross this 0 and the decimal off. I'm going to ignore this part and think of it as the square root of 36. So for the square root of 36, I've got numbers for that over there on the side. The square root of 36 is right here. We've got that one exactly. That's not very good. Let me fix that box up there. Actually, let me try the highlighter. I'm going to highlight that. There we go. So the square root of 36 is equal to 6. So if the square root of 36 is equal to 6, then what is the 0 decimal 36? What's the square root of that going to be? So that one, if you're having, so it can't be 6, right? So I know it can't be, it's not equal to 6, that's for sure. What about 0.6? Could it be 0.6? Could it be 0.06? So we have to think about decimals here. Over this one, if you're having a hard time deciding how many decimals, which one is it going to be, I know it's a 6 in some form, then do a little multiplication on the side if you want to. Try 0.6 times 0.6. And when you multiply that out, what do you get? You'll get 0.36. So, well, I'll go over that with you. Let me see, just in case you've forgotten how to do decimals. So the first part is 6 times 6. Do that in green maybe. 6 times 6 is 36. Put the 3 up. Now I do 6 times 0, which is 0. Add on the 3. That's 3. Now I need a placeholder underneath the 0. Now you may not do long multiplication this way. If you do it a different way, then please do it the way you know how to do it and just ignore what I'm doing here, because we don't teach long multiplication in high school. This is something you already need to know. So I'm going to put a 0 in that spot. This part's easy. 0 times 6 is 0. 0 times 0 is 0. Draw the line, I add them up, and I get a 6, a 3, a 0. I don't really need to write that 0. But then how many decimals do I use? So I look at how many decimals were in the question. I've got 1 decimal place here, 1 decimal place here. That's a total of 2 spots after the decimal I need, so I know that I have to put my decimal right there, 0.36. So the answer to this question is 0.6. Okay, next question. Evaluate, example 2. My first one I'm going to put up is, oops, I already went ahead there. So we're doing all questions that are adding or subtracting with decimals, multiplying. So the first thing is to line it up. So you have to line up your question like this. Your decimals must line up with each other. They have to. If you didn't have any decimals, then the 1 spot, those are the 3s, they would have to line up. Or the hundredths everything has to line up when we do addition. So I'm going to add these 2 together. And I start on the right-hand side. Again, if you're adding a different way other than with a calculator, continue on and do that. But this is the method I'm going to show you here. So 9 and 6 is 15. I put the 1 up. 7 and 4 is 11, and another 1 is 12. Put the 1 up. 3 and 3 is 6, and 1 is 7, and then another 1 here, and a decimal has to line up with those ones there. So my answer is 17.25. Next one, same thing. I've got to subtract, but everything has to line up. So when I do my subtraction here, first thing is 5 subtract 9, which I'm going to have to carry. I'm going to have to borrow, sorry, because I can't subtract that. So I'm going to borrow from the 7. I'm going to turn the 7 to a 6. So I put a 1 up here. So now I'm doing 15 minus 9. That's 6. And the next step is to do 6 minus 6. That's going to be a 0. Now I'm at the tens, which is an 8 minus 0. That's an 8. And I have a decimal there. And then I'm just going to do 10 minus 6. These last 2 pieces I can do together here. 10 minus 6 is 4. 4.806. Next question, 3.81 times 10. All I'm going to do for this is move the decimal. I'm not going to do any kind of written out math. Whenever you're multiplying by 10, and you have questions like this in your homework, you have a lot of questions multiplying by 10 and powers of 10. Multiplying by 10 means moving it 1 spot to the right. The decimal moves here. Oops, I can't get my pen to work. There we go. Decimal moves over, and we're going to get 38.1. Same, D is almost the same question. It's just that we're multiplying by 0.1 this time. Multiplying by 0.1 means I'm going to move the decimal 1 to the left. That's going to be 0.381. So that's I think that's grade 6 actually. You guys can probably remember better than I can, but I think that's grade 6 what we're going over here. One more example. This is not a lot to do today. This is another BEDMAS question. So I just find that sometimes I need to review BEDMAS because you have some questions like this in your homework and students kind of forget. So first of all, we have to follow the order of operations. That means B first for brackets. The brackets have to be done first. So am I doing 4 minus 1 first, or am I doing 1 squared first? What is the exponent touching? The exponent is a 2, and it's touching this 1. It's always what is it touching on the left, not on the right. Don't worry about that bracket. It's what's right before it. It's touching the 1. It's not touching the negative. So that means my next line is going to be, the 1 is going to be repeated, nothing else. trying to get this to go to the next slide here. Something's wrong. Okay. There we go. So the 1 gets written out twice in red here because that is what is repeated, not the negative sign. The exponent's not touching the negative sign. So what do we do next? We're still working on the B for bedmass, so we're still working inside the brackets. So we have to still follow the order of operations inside the brackets and do 1 times 1, which is 1. So what you're seeing in red is the only part that's changed. All the part that's in black, I haven't changed it. I'm just doing 1 step at a time. We're still on bedmass. We're still on B for brackets because I haven't finished cleaning up the brackets yet. That's not done yet. So that's my next step. I'm going to do 4 minus 1 and I get a 3. That's in red. And now what's next? We've finally cleaned up the brackets for bedmass. Now we're on exponents. So that's over here. 3 cubed. The exponent's touching the 3, so we write that out 3 times. You don't have to. There's a lot of extra steps I'm putting in here. Some of you are able to skip a few, but certainly you are not permitted to jump to the answer because then I think you just put it in your calculator or you just looked it up and wrote it down. So what's 3 times 3 times 3? 27. And then at the same time, I also did this multiplication because we're on multiplication here. 2 times 3 is 6. And we get our final answer of 21. That's it. So the homework, it looks like a lot here. I tried to type it out kind of right down to the minutiae so that you wouldn't have any questions about what you're supposed to do. So it looks like a lot, but it's just because I typed a lot of information. So you have a few handouts and it tells you here everything that you need to do. So once you get your handouts organized, you need to press pause on this page so that you make sure you do all the questions that you need to do. As always, ask me if you need any help.